The holidays start here at Baker's with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone. The holidays start here at Baker's with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. Whether you're making a traditional roasted turkey or spicy turkey tacos, your go-to shrimp cocktail, or your first Cajun risotto, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace your traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction. Check our app for details. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
I like this a lot. At the job interview, they asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I told him, I think we'll still be using mirrors in 5 years. Very good. All right, we'll come back to your comments after we've set this up, ready to answer that question. How can we make politicians more accountable? After dealing with the idea of monarchy and royal families on the eve of or in the run-up to the coronation of King Charles III in the UK. We dealt with monarchy yesterday, didn't we? We're going to talk about politicians today and how to make them more accountable right after this. Right, there we go. How can we make politicians more accountable? Give us a buzz on 913-590-303 if you have a solution to that. Let's just look at a few of your comments coming over. The hangover from the Good Morning Portugal show is probably drinking beer instead of as a way of saving water that may have caused that this morning. Glad to hear you're improving, Suze. Agree, Suze. The best remedy, sunshine, and we're ready for it too. Yeah. That's there's Suze over there in Vancouver, recovering from a bout of COVID and on the mend as well, getting some Ashmaliotish, some get well soon greetings from the community here. Get well soon, says Squire of the Shires. Thank you for being here this morning, Squire of the Showers. Not the Showers, but the Shires. Have you tried those vitamin D and zinc supplements? Are naturals always best, you say there? And Antonio F and Joao F encouraging Suze to get well soon. I need some Portugal sun, you so do. Portuglish, you might call in to answer his own question in a moment. How do we make politicians more accountable? On 913-590-303 will be he may call in and answer that question because he put it to us yesterday, having called in to talk about what he thinks we should do with the monarchy. Jason still here saying preserve the monarchy and pickle a prince. That's his solution to that situation. Yes, Squire of the Shires, good to meet you. Do come back soon, if you will. There was an interesting story when it comes to politics and government, a slightly tenuous connection, but an interesting one nonetheless. And I think it has all the hallmarks of what's wrong with a society, perhaps you could say, that is over-governed or doesn't have the most functional form of government. Very interesting, I thought this was, and you may too. Tell me what you think about this whilst you're girding your loins and finding out how easy it is to call 913-590-303. So we can extend this, couldn't we? Zombie workers limiting productivity in Portugal. This is certainly a political problem, is it not? And a governmental problem in the broadest sense. Zombie workers limiting productivity in Portugal, apparently. This is from the Portugal News. 6 comments. I can't wait to get to them. Work productivity in Portugal has practically stagnated in the last decade, indicates an analysis carried out by the Public Administration Competence Centre. That's an interesting organisation, is it not? And reported by the media source Echo. Productivity isn't everything. But in the long run, it's almost everything. A country's ability to improve its living standards over time depends virtually entirely on its ability to improve productivity per worker. The citation of the Nobel Prize in Economics, Paul Krugman, set the tone for the Public Administration Competence Centre to analyse the productivity of companies in Portugal. Now, my bad here, because I'm extending this to, I thought it was about, what the on earth is that? An anatomical doll doing my Google ads there, and a pair of butterfly. Oh, it's tuning into what I'm talking about here, isn't it? Let's just turn those off for a minute. Don't know where they come from. Productivity isn't everything, as we've discovered there, and I thought this was a reflection on the public sector, but apparently it's looking at the private sector, which is possibly even more worrying, is it not? A document that highlights the impact of zombie companies in raising finance for more productive competitors, and which also highlights the added value of companies with more complex tasks. Before that, the report condemns the near stagnation dynamics observed between 2010 and 2019 in productivity in Portugal, which only accelerated the slowdown trend observed since 1970. Have we really been involved in a slowdown trend in Portugal since 1970? In the second decade of this century, the average annual growth rate for productivity per worker was only 0.6%. At the same time, the same level as Spain and Germany, but below countries such as Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. In 2019, the year before the pandemic, labour productivity in Portugal corresponded to only 49 and 56% of that recorded in France and Germany, signals the document. However, the Baltic countries registered substantially higher productivity growth rates and are now very close to the labour productivity registered in Portugal. So what causes the slowdown here? The zombie workers limiting productivity in Portugal. And anyone who's dealt with I think anyone who's dealt with the bureaucracy here might forgive me for thinking that that is part of the problem in local government, a kind of, a lack of efficiency. And on the one hand, we're saying, we want to be respectful and compliant foreigners, immigrants coming into the country. But sometimes it goes a little bit too far, doesn't it? When you're facing a situation where you think it really doesn't need to be like this. This is just dysfunctional. This isn't cultural. It is dysfunctional, and that's the interesting Venn diagram. We're not really Zen diagram right now. We're Venn diagram here on the Iberian FM. That is the problem, isn't it? Where it goes into that Venn diagram of where it's slipping away from a cultural cause. And it's more of a dysfunctional matter because it's just not working very well. And I don't think there's any harm in talking about that and addressing it. And I think there is a bit of zombieism going on in local government. So with regard to the economic context, the speaker here draws attention to the exit barriers that favour the survival of zombie companies that absorb resources. The document identifies that in non-tradable sectors such as services and construction, a greater presence of zombie companies limits investment and employment, increases the productivity gap between companies, and increases the productivity requirement for newly created companies. Workers' qualifications also contribute positively to increased productivity. I think we can safely accept that. The same happens with the qualifications of managers. The most productive companies have, on average, more management positions and more qualified managers than other companies. Now, for me, and I'm eager to get to the comments here because they're always a bit spicy and juicy in the Portugal news. Add your comments in the chat or on 913. Call in on 913-590-303. Keen to get to the chat here. But yes, there is a little bit of a zombie vibe, I would say, not just in the public sector, but not just in the private sector. And you could say the private sector, the context for that is created by the government, and some of the policies of the government are not entirely suitable or supportive to the utmost productivity. And then when it comes to the public sector, that's another matter altogether. And I think some will allude or refer directly to that in the comments here. Says Kay on this matter of zombie productivity here in Portugal. If a country only values the tourism sector and selling overpriced properties, it is no wonder that it is becoming zombified. Education, professional training, and the end of endemic corruption are key to any well-functioning society and a good work ethic. That's Kay. I'm afraid our wonderful country is on a big downward spiral thanks to tourism and high homes prices, forcing everyone out. It will soon be known as a holiday island, not Portugal. That's sobering, isn't it? From Jay. This is the result of losing talented employees. There's zombieism to companies abroad, either because Portugal doesn't offer sufficient opportunities to the highly skilled or the tax system is too punitive to high earners. There is too much focus by government on providing things free for people who've made no effort in life, says Billy Bissett. There is too much focus by government on providing things free for people who've made no effort in life. That doesn't sit well with people who've invested time, effort, and money trying to better themselves through education and training. Work has to be worthwhile financially. No one takes a job to see half their salary go to the government. Support the strivers, not the skivers, says Billy Bissett. I believe Portugal should run initiatives, says Ash Railton in Porto, to get companies to promote vocational training with incentives that are given to participating businesses, helping them to up their skill or upskill their current workforce and additionally provide growth and job opportunities for new starters. Countries such as the UK, France, Belgium, and many more have a similar equivalent. And are they doing well? And it could prove very successful and also help population retention, as many young qualified workers are leaving to higher positions abroad. That is a problem. Zombies run the country is the problem, says Ian in the Beiras. And this is a small point, says Peter Densham in the Algarve, but I have been spending nearly 40 years here, and I noticed that the needed to actually visit government offices, revenue departments, local authorities is just as bad as ever. In 40 years, there's a long-term view from a foreigner, an immigrant, an expat. I believe there's a huge amount of productive time lost to see government official staff. The government must address this. Will they? Can we make the government more accountable? Quite a lot of comments are coming in already about this. The zombieism, let's refer to it broadly as zombieism. I'm not sure public floggings are the answer. A department for transparency or of transparency, is that just going to be more bureaucracy and another layer of zombieism possibly? Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Jason Hall, yes, your comment responded to with a few giggles there. Preserve the monarchy, pickle a prince, and yes, as well, enjoying that. I wouldn't waste the alcohol, says a Portuguese, who may join us in just a moment with a call to talk about how to make the politicians more accountable, but hopefully without a public flogging. I took a screenshot of your supportive words all. That's nice, and you can treasure that. It's 2 a.m. or thereabouts for Suze. So get well soon. Ash melhores, Suze. Keep on healing and getting better. Want better productivity? Pay people a decent wage. Yeah. And the wage has to not disappear 50% in taxes, does it? Or when you add in all those stealth taxes. And it has to be geared to a decent cost of living, quality of life, does it not? You can't just put wages up and expect that to be the end of the problem. The good wages need to be in an environment where those good wages can be enjoyed, surely. Don't call me Shirley. There are better uses than monarch pickling of alcohol, perhaps sanitizing hospitals. Oh, another little sort of, is that a mini rant in there? And we need more queen bees rather than more royals, says Suze. Very good. I hope you're on the mend, Suze, says Portuguese. I agree about bees, just not the monarchy. That was my point. Trained workers are more productive. Wow, Sherlock. Yeah, who'd have thought? And first, don't charge small businesses and enterprises with such criminal taxes so as to allow them to breathe and pay better wages. Yes, Joao F. Most of the working class depends on small businesses, not the huge ever-profiting companies and corporations, as part of that siphoning of wealth from the poor and the middle classes up to the elite and super rich, as we were talking about yesterday. So what to do? Do we put the politicians on a short leash? Well, can you? Can they be reined in at all, I wonder? Now, I did have a rather good video from is it James Melville and George Galloway? I neglected to upload it, but it is on my Facebook timeline if you want to see that. It isn't just the politicians, is it? It's the unelected people who seem to be quite keen on saying how things should be run with their vision of the future and how people should behave. Unelected, those computer salesmen, for example, and the owners of large corporations, they are very powerful people. Can they be kept on a short leash, I wonder? Department of Transparency, not sure. There really, I think that it will be another layer. You can't have this. It's like the police, isn't it? inspecting themselves. Can it be done? Let's answer that call and go to some more comments. The government says Antonio F. might probably charge the public to watch those. To watch the public floggings? Well, that's enterprising. Lord Gilchrist, funny you should be here this morning.
Well, I think you kind of goaded me a little bit subliminally to join you.
It worked. So what have you got to say? Can you keep? Good morning to you. Bon dia. Can you keep the politicians on the short leash?
What can we do? I literally most of my suggestions aren't very kind, because I think you should be always holding public servants who are supposed to be in control of the public funds and the public entities. You should be holding them to the highest standards, and I don't know what you would do to rein them in so they have accountability. And I suspect you could levy the rule of law to exact huge penalties on them for their blatant criminality or for their sleaze.
Yes. So you're not up for systemic change then. You want to tweak the as I would see it, you want to rearrange the furniture on this Titanic of a thing.
Well, no, I'd firstly like to fill the hole and then start bucketing out the water,
to extend the analogy.
If you're going to use that analogy, I would keep the band playing though. So, it'll be incremental changes.
Sometimes a metaphor can be taken too far, can't it?
Right, it can. I'm driving that one, yeah. No, I think really there needs to be, if you want a better run country, you need a better organised government. In that regards, that they need the eye on the ball and not how to line their own pockets. So I think public accountability needs to be, everything they do needs to be transparent, and so they can be held accountable, and also that they cannot, what was it called, a super injunction their way out of accountability. That happened in the UK, didn't it?
Gotcha.
People
so
were taking out these
you're talking about the
super
highest
injunctions to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that goes on, doesn't it? So allegedly, we wouldn't know, though, would we necessarily? But you're talking about the highest levels of government, and you want higher levels at these higher levels of accountability and making sure that they adhere to the law.
Everything's transparent. It's for public record. It's for public availability.
Yeah.
And so anyone, like I said, you could have a little department of transparency that goes, right, what have you done? Let's just check. And it's just checks and balances on the actual, ministries and the politicians, the heads of various parts.
Lord Gilchrist, wouldn't the politicians agree to that and say, yes, this is a really good idea, and I've got a really good mate who I went to school with who will run this department of transparency?
No. That's the kicker, right? You have like a made up of literally voluntary citizens, not friends, not it's like when you enter a competition, like anyone can enter this competition unless you're related to someone who works for the organization, then you're not allowed to enter the competition. So it's like kind of there's got to be no link between the overseer or the person who's checking on what's been done and what's been signed, and the actual government entities themselves. So there can be no backhanding of the old school tie, if you like, which again, sadly, goes on way too much in the UK.
Okay. Your public flogging idea, there's a couple of responses to your earlier ideas. Public floggings and keep them on a short leash. Didn't Cynthia Payne try that back in the 1980s? It would appear Stephen Wells is saying that actually some of the politicians like that sort of treatment, so they might queue up.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is why she never went to prison, of course.
And no, not more departments. There are way too much of them. We have to control useless bureaucracy. TDEC picking on useless bureaucracy and calling
bureaucracy is a misnomer, right?
Yeah, good morning as well from Siobhan at Cia de Quinta. Good morning to you, Siobhan. Your interview will be up on our YouTube channel soon. Not looking forward, going back to the rules that we were talking about yesterday, not looking forward to upcoming Canadian currency with King Chuck on our buck. That's got a nice ring to it. I'll have to leave the country. Wait, got that planned already. Well done, Suze. Go on, you got some more ideas, I think.
Well, no, I just was going to say the banknote preview I've seen for the UK currency, he looks about 20 years younger than he actually is now.
Of course, if you were king, wouldn't you do that?
Well, but again, this is why off with their heads.
No. Okay, so
allegedly,
right.
yeah.
I've got another question for you, and it's okay. So this is here are some solutions for making politicians accountable. Something more effective than a cross in a box every 4 or 5 years, which I've always found a little curious myself. What about these? You know how yesterday we saw this almost like a transference or a transition. The royals aren't what they used to be, and the politicians are the new royals. But who are the new politicians? And I would put it to you, Lord Gilchrist, that the new politicians are the likes of Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Klaus Schwab. There are people who seem to have quite an influence in the running of our lives. Fauci, he's another one. I mean,
it's also the lobbyists, isn't it? I mean, this is another thing.
How do we keep them on a short leash, and how do we stop them? Look, apparently, Antonio F. says masks are no longer mandatory in health facilities as of today, thanks to the likes of Fauci and Gates, you might argue, and the World Health Organization. Masks are increasingly proven to be useless, certainly on the scale that they were being used at, and we were being forced to use them. And these initiatives or suggestions were brought about by not the elected ones that we're trying to make accountable, but the unelected ones who we don't seem to be ever make them accountable. What should we do about that lot?
Well, again, need kind of keeping a little bit of a shorter leash. The thing is you need public health professionals, for example, that have no direct meddling in politics. So you kind of need health organizations. I wouldn't say the WHO is perfect, but you do kind of need these kind of bodies or entities. Again, I think the lobbying the lobbying of governments is a big problem. I think there should be some sort of law to prevent the amount of lobbying that happens. I mean, sure, you can appeal to a government if you're a very profitable entity. If you're Boeing or Big Pharma and you want to do something, the government hasn't made a decision. I think you could appeal to them to make a decision, but by donating millions and billions of coin into the system isn't a way to get your thing done. It should still be done by a democratic process, rather than just paying your way through governments.
Yes.
This is the problem. Corruption is the big problem. This is why they need to be accountable. You need to control corruption. And I saw a comment actually from Joel about the corruption thing, which was limiting the number of family members in public office, which is again another great idea.
Let's go, because we'll conclude now. Good news is, Lord Gilchrist, that you are immortalized again on Spotify. The Iberian FM Phone-in is a podcast. We take these conversations and we make them into a podcast, and they go up on Spotify and other podcast platforms. Do subscribe and tune in. Go on, mate.
I would also encourage others to phone in and stand on their own soapbox.
It's easy to do, isn't it? It's easy to do. As
easy
you've
to do,
proven. Thank you, mate. Okay, last few comments then. That decision, no mask, was already published in the Diario de República. Now it's up to health facilities to decide. Now, I think that's a great idea. Let local facilities decide, rather than the World Health Organization telling us things that many of which turn out to be wrong. They've had an impact on people who they never meet or know, or whose context they don't understand. Let's bring these things down to a local or more local level. I think that would help. In my opinion, says Joao, the whole election system should be changed so as to make PMs directly accountable before the people who elect them. That sounds like a good idea. Another issue, as you mentioned there, Lord Gilchrist, is to limit the number of family members in public offices. That leads us, of course, to controlling corruption. Maybe we'll talk about that another day. We need health officials who don't make millions off drug patents or patients. Yes, I nearly read that as patients, but it would be the same, would it not? And yes, much of this sponsored by Pfizer. I've not had the call yet to sponsor this by Pfizer and thereby change my narrative. Not yet anyway. What Tyler had a good idea. The Peasants' Revolt. Let's talk about more about that in the coming days and weeks. Ultimately, enterprises should not be allowed to contribute to political campaigns. That way, big trusts and companies would be restrained in their power to influence politics. Thank you, Joao F. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lord Gilchrist, for calling in. Have a great day, mate. We'll see you again tomorrow with a bit more. Lord Gilchrist, are you still there? Would you like to choose another topic? Yes. You get the honour and privilege. I mean, you've got a lot of that anyway as a lord, but you have the honour and privilege of choosing again because you called in.
Hey! Don't pull at my thread of having privilege.
Check your privilege, mate. Your privilege today here on the Iberian FM Phone-in is to choose the subject for tomorrow. Have you got one?
Oh, yes. I was going to think, okay, we've kind of done the first 2 days this week. We've been a bit ranty about, the establishment and governance. So maybe let's bring it back to our collective level, and maybe something about, Portugal. No, you said Iberian or Iberian, or, I said Eurofluid, or,
I'll be on location tomorrow and broadcasting.
Where are you tomorrow? That might influence it.
Herdade de Maio will be broadcasting from the site at Herdade de Maio. So you want something a little bit more Portugal-centric? Bring it back to the Iberian Peninsula.
I mean, let's kind of refocus what we were doing in Portugal. Maybe is a thing that we should look at. The Portugal in 2023. Maybe we should look at something like, how's the water levels going? Because this is supposed to be the month of 1,000 rains. So I haven't seen a single drop in April.
Okay, so preparing for the drought.
Yeah, well, let's kind of focus. It's easy to get carried away with everything else, but let's kind of focus it on Portugal. So, what's coming this year in Portugal? Maybe, are we facing another water shortages? Is there going to be big fires this year? I suspect yes.
We will start with that. Okay, let's start with those. Yeah, those very close to home issues.
So something about let's focus about as it warms up. Let's focus on Portugal.
Okay, mate. Thank you for that. That's all for today.
Okay.
Ciao. Bye for now.
The holidays start here at Baker's with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. Whether you're making a traditional roasted turkey or spicy turkey tacos, your go-to shrimp cocktail, or your first Cajun risotto, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace your traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction. Check our app for details. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.